Hi guys, my name is Catherine, and for those of you who are here for the first time, I tell true life stories. The stories that I hear from others or that I witness by myself. Today I'm gonna tell you about these people, the women who kill their husbands either to get their insurance or just to inherit the property, or they just fed up and they want to marry somebody else. Those are called black widows. What about the men? Well, I'm not sure about the name. I can't remember the name, but I'll call this the black widower. This is the story of a man that people believe, but they're really not sure. But at the end of the story, it's up to you to judge. Was he killing his wives, or were they dying a natural death? It's strange that the person who tells this story grew up in the same neighborhood with this man when she was still an 8-year-old little girl. She used to see him. And funny enough, she still grew up in the same neighborhood with this man when he was now married, but in a different town. What a coincidence. It's such a coincidence. But it's not really a very big coincidence because this man happens to be a lecturer, and this lady's parents also happen to be lecturers. So the thing is, they're staying in lecturers' staff quarters, and it happens that when she's young, this fellow is already a lecturer, and her parents are also lecturers. And so her parents are transferred to a new town, and so is this guy into a new town now with his family. Now, when she was young, this man, let's call him Kevin or Kevo, because these guys are the ones I hear. The people with this name like messing around. Well, so Kevo used to be the neighbor of the little girl by then 8-year-old called Nancy. Nancy used to, skip in their balcony, and every time she was skipping in the balcony, the house of Kevo was just opposite as they shared the balcony, and of course you can see what goes on, who's coming in, who's going out. Kevo by then was not married. He could have been in his early 20s, but he had already landed a job in a technical college and he was a trainer. So as Nancy was keeping her ropes as usual, she'll see different women coming in Kevo's house and out. She was innocent, so she didn't know what was going on, but it came to a point she thought that probably it's a college. Kevo had opened a college because the number of women that were going in and out was tremendous. And this college seemed to be very busy, especially on weekends, Saturdays and Sunday, when Kevo was not at work. But still, the college was so busy after Kevo's work with the different ladies only. She just used to see skipping innocently. But in reality, this was not a college. These were Kevo's girlfriends. Or Kevo's flings, we'll say. Kevo was kind of promiscuous when he was still young. And it doesn't end there. When you are promiscuous, when you're young, don't think it will just get finished when you grow older, unless you're St. Augustine. Now, back to the story of the dead women, or those who are about to die. This Kevo is a Catholic guy, and the Catholic Church does not allow divorce. The Catholic Church does not allow divorce unless it's a mental case, one of the partners has a mental illness, or one of the partners is committing adultery, then they can think of it. But first, I think the marriage has to be annulled. And it's not just easy. You just don't wake up and say you're divorced or 3 times, like some religions. It's a process. First, there is a separation. The church will allow you to separate. But even once you're separated, it doesn't mean that you can get married. You're separated, but you're still husband and wife until the marriage is annulled. So in the time of separation, you cannot marry anyone and you cannot date anyone because you are still married unless the marriage is annulled by the head of the church, and that is the Pope. So that makes it very difficult for Catholics just to, divorce or just throw away women. So that makes them take the word, what God has put together, no man shall put asunder, more seriously, and they have to work on their marriages seriously. Otherwise, if it was allowed, everybody will be throwing out, oh, you don't know how to use toothpaste, I divorced you. I get another one who doesn't know how to do this, I divorced this. So now, Kevo thought that this is a bit hard because he'd been hooked up, he had been married. Somebody made him get married to her. Not really made him, he accepted to marry this woman as he loved her and got married to her. And with this kind of behavior, everybody was wondering, how is this guy gonna survive a marriage? And they really felt sorry for this wife to be, or who was already the wife. They had a very grand wedding, and one strange thing is that this Kevo had 2 faces. He had a face for the church. He was one of those guys you will see very active in church with a sash around across their chests, those things for ushers, the people who help around the church, arranging people, helping to distribute the host, things like that. He was that. But on the other end, he was quite different. He had a faith for the church and a faith for the world. So this guy, when you see him in church, you'll think he is St. Peter himself, welcoming people into heaven. So one time, the wife that was married, her name was Leona. One time, when they had now moved to another town in another college, Nancy's room, when Nancy was in her room, she will see directly into Kevo's kitchen. And Nancy used to stand by her window gazing at the stars every night, or at the moon. That was her habit. She just liked standing at the window getting some fresh air from her room. That was her habit. And it became more interesting when she noticed, because she was very nosy, she noticed, wow, she can see into Kevo's kitchen. Kevo had, those transparent curtains that you will see through, but he never put another curtain to cover the transparent curtain, so she will see. And she became more interested when Kevo will always come back at night, and she will see him following the wife in the kitchen. The wife is trying to walk away, he's following her, disturbing her, threatening her, pushing her. She's trying to make him food even though he was late. Leona is trying to make him food, but he's still pushing her away. And this was like around midnight, because Nancy used to study up to around midnight, then she sits by her window and just looks outside, and then she got an interesting view here. And she used to laugh at it. Kevo will come back home drunk, and that's why he used to disturb the wife all the time, trying to cook for him, but he's just chasing around the kitchen. And finally, they will start fighting. And then they will get out of the kitchen because the wife is trying to run away. Then the wife will come back again. And one thing that shocked her one time is she saw Kevo really hit his wife at the back, just near the back. Well, she screamed a bit, but anyway, the houses were such a big distance that you wouldn't hear the scream. Otherwise, Kevo could have looked up her room and seen her. Or maybe could not have seen her because her lights used to be off when she's watching outside the stars. So he wouldn't have seen her anyway unless he really observed. She was so shocked to see Kevo hit the wife so hard, where the kidneys are, just a bit behind. And the wife screamed and held herself like she was in real pain. She was writhing in pain, but Kevo continued hitting her. So Nancy didn't know whether to go and help, but she was like, oh my God, if I scream for help, they'll know that I'm watching them. So she left it to the family. That's their shit. A few weeks later, Leona, the wife of Kevo, was seen lying at her compound, like she was so tired she couldn't walk. She was just lying like basking, like a lizard basking in the sun, which was not her habit. So one neighbor asked her if she had a problem. And she was like, my husband has killed me. My husband has killed me. She asked, why? Why has your husband killed you? She complained of a pain over here. So why don't you go to hospital? The neighbor asked her. She said, no money. The husband cannot give her money to go to hospital. So he was like, so why don't you just go to a public hospital? They'll sort you out. And the neighbor helped her to go to hospital, but it was too late. She didn't know that night she was talking to Leon. That afternoon she was talking to Leon was the afternoon that Leon was going to pass away. Her kidney was damaged beyond repair. And she'd been denied access to hospital because the husband kept on, this Kevo was controlling all the finances of whatsoever. So that's how Leon died. That's how Leon died. And according to the husband, Leon had been undergoing treatment for her kidney, but she had never informed the others because she did not want to disturb them with the funds and everything. But the woman who she had told that her husband had killed her could not say anything because she had no evidence. But on the other hand, Nancy, who was watching, was wondering, was this kidney issue connected to the kicks that she received? The kicks that she was watching from her room. She couldn't answer. Three months did not pass. Kevo had another wife. And it's not a come with stay cohabiting kind of thing, because this guy was a very practicing Catholic, so he had to go through the right route for a wedding. That was a wedding. And even the priest asked him, are you sure you're ready to marry, or you need time to grieve your first wife? And the guy was like, I am very ready to marry. I am very ready to marry. One wonders, how did he know this second wife so fast? that he just took 3 months before he marries her? Could he have been dating her on the side while he was married to Leon? This lady was called Christy, the new wife. And as usual, Nancy, with her midnight star staring at her window, began seeing the same thing. Kevo coming back at midnight, drunk, chasing Christy around the house. But Christy seemed to be a bit vicious because she was fighting back, as in she had learned taekwondo somewhere. So she was giving him a hard time. I mean, it was hardly weeks into their marriage and he had already began showing her the signs of abuse, violence, up to the point that probably they could have known each other for years and they were dating. So this was just a process of now you're fed up of each other, things like that. And then Nancy saw Christy run and they disappeared out of her view. And the next thing shocked her. First, she heard a thud. Boom! And within a few seconds, she sees Kevo running out of the house in an underwear. You know, these were storied houses. So she saw Kevo run out of the house in an underwear. It was like an emergency. You know, this time it was so silent. There was nobody, walking around. There was security in this area, but most of the time at the gate. They were not coming in, walking around, or it was rare. At that time they wouldn't walk around because they were sure it was secured. Nancy saw Kevo run out of the house and come back pulling Christy. Christy looked lifeless. It seemed like Christy had jumped off from the first floor to the ground floor from one of the rooms upstairs. And the only way that this guy had to get her back was pull her back. And the nearest way was pull her back through the front door. I mean the safest, because the other side was a public road, and chances were that many people will see him if they were passing by, and they will see him pulling Christy's motionless body. So Nancy was so shocked from what she saw, she almost screamed. She didn't know whether Christy was dead or still alive, but all she knew that is she heard a thud, and then Christy was being pulled into the house, back into the house. Within a few minutes, there were police sirens, ambulances, and one wonders how Kevo was proved innocent. The guys had allegations that the wife committed suicide. They had an argument, and the next thing, the wife jumped out of the window, cracked her skull, fell headfirst, and died. That was his story. And it just ended like that. Either through bribery of the police, because why couldn't he call the police when she was still on the ground, but instead pulled her in, is a mystery that nobody questioned. Probably he could have paid off the police just to keep quiet, close the story, take my story. That is how the second wife ended. You can guess what happened after that. You can guess. The third wife. The third wife, Mudhoni, was brought in. Normal wedding. The priest had tried to stop it, had told this guy, take your time, because you're going through a hard time. Your wives are just dying one after another and you're just taking over another. Take your time, heal fast. Maybe after a few years, you can make up your mind whether you want to marry another woman or not. But Kevo was like, no, I am okay. I am ready to marry another woman. Modoni. And guess who Modoni was? Modoni was Christy's sister, younger sister. Christy's younger sister. People were asking, Modoni, aren't you scared of marrying this guy whose wives are dying one after another? Don't you think you're gonna be the next? That was the question that people were asking Christy. But Christy didn't want to know. I mean, she was head over heels. One funny thing is that Kevo was not, I don't know. Anyway, it was their test. It was their test. So he had some charm that some women really could not resist. I can say that. With that name, Kevo, probably. So, Kevin is the fool of Kevo. So, Modoni went through the same process with Nancy watching through the window. But this time, of course, he used to do his normal disturbance after work, midnight. Modoni has prepared him a meal and he's there following her behind, disturbing her here and there. This is just a few months after their marriage. And she sees, he looked sober this time around though, but he wanted a fight, kind of. But I think he thought maybe it's not safe. So, as usual, Nancy is watching her movies, her live movies through her bedroom window, unknown to Kevo that somebody has been seeing all his actions. I know what you did last summer. So this time, Nancy saw him doing something that looked suspicious, and Modoni walked into the kitchen and he immediately hid something. Like he had removed some bottles from something that looked like a closet. And then when Modoni walked into the kitchen, he immediately kept it away. And as usual, pretended to be fighting her, pushing her away. So Modoni left peacefully. She didn't want fights at midnight, past midnight. Just walked away. And he was left over in the kitchen. He seemed to be preparing some concoctions, but Nancy couldn't make out what it was. She probably thought some sort of alcohol he wants to take because he was looking a little bit sober that night. And he put it in a glass and went with it. The next morning, news had it that Modoni had died in hospital. She just stopped breathing. She couldn't breathe. And one funny thing is this guy never wanted postmortem because he could not afford it. So he says. And funny enough, it was during the Corona season. And so everybody was so scared and much could not be done. They assumed probably she died of Corona, complications, couldn't breathe. And everybody was scared because nobody knew so much about this new virus. And so the list was done to her body to do any checks and everything, and she was just buried like that. And you know what happened next? Kevo has a new wife as we speak. Kevo has a new wife at the moment. And so far they've stayed for 1 year, but we don't know how long the new wife is gonna stay. We don't know whether it's a coincidence that the wives are dying or Kevo is a black widower. because he cannot change the habits he used to have when he was still young of changing women. And now that he's married them and he has to keep his good image, as in until death do us part, he has to kill the wives. So if you like my contents, share, like, and subscribe. Ciao.